What's happening, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Fighting Words. Anthony Sanfilippo's here. I'm here, Bob Wankel, and I'm in Maine. I'm in Kennebunkport, Maine. And we're making it work today. Anthony, it looks like you're ready to get one foot out the door to go to game 2 of this Phillies-Orioles series. Game 1 was electric last night. I did watch it. I watched it on my cell phone on the MLB app from a bed in a hotel in Kennebunkport with 2 sleeping kids on each side of the bed. So it's pretty awesome, but we were able to get it done. I was able to angrily tweet about Jesus Luzardo's inconsistencies and how you have to pay Kyle Schwarber, and I haven't missed a beat.
No, it's good. Like, yeah, I'm impressed by you that you made that whole trek all the way up to the northeastern tip of the United States, and still were able to have your snarky commentary on social media about the Phillies.
Well, you said that I was being a smart ass with my last tweet of the night, but I actually just stumbled upon it and I was sort of struck by it. So the Phillies, the last time that they've won 3 consecutive games was June 18th to June 20th. And I think I've said that on this show before. But that game ended before summer technically began. The Phillies have not won 3 straight games this summer, Anthony. And they finally do have an opportunity to do it tonight. So we'll see. With the guy on the mound, Taiwan on the mound, looking to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Look, the Orioles bullpen is terrible. Absolutely terrible. Like you and I can go throw the ball better than who. Like I don't even recognize half the names in that bullpen. It's that bad. And their starting pitching's not great either. But they're throwing Dean Kramer tonight. He's at least a competent starter. And that game was 3-3 into the 6th inning yesterday. So it wasn't like the Phillies ran away with it early either. So. Yeah, I mean it's going to be interesting to see if they can get that 3rd in a row for the first time this summer, as you pointed out. But I think that the thing that we really have to consider here, Bob, and I don't know. I mean, the fans are on top of it. They said it yesterday. They were chanting it. Is Kyle Schwarber a legitimate MVP candidate for the National League? Because I think he is.
Well, I think, unfortunately, I mean, the reality of it is this thing is sort of stacked against him a little bit. If you do the blind test where you say player A, player B, and you go Ohtani, Schwarber head to head, I mean, Ohtani has an edge on him in a couple different places, but Schwarber also has an edge in a few different places as well. The reality of it, though, and this sort of ties into what we talked about last week, is the way that baseball sort of fillets Ohtani. And I just don't know that it's going to be enough to overcome it. And I'm not sitting here saying that it's not warranted or that he doesn't have a case, but I think the reality of it is that Ohtani is Ohtani, and Schwarber's going to have to really bypass him in a lot of different facets in order to really win the thing. I think it's more likely that we're sitting here in November saying, wow, hell of a season. Any other year, if you're not going up against that guy, he might have won it as a primary DH, but I don't think he's going to. Does he deserve it? Sure. Does he deserve to be in the conversation? Absolutely. I don't think that he's going to win it.
PSU Flyers making my argument. Is there anyone in the NL more important to the success of his team than Schwarber is? The Phillies' entire offense is non-functional without him.
Yeah, I mean, this offense would be absolutely dreadful. And I know when we do wins above replacement, you're like, oh, where does he slot in? And I mean, I think personally, if the Phillies are sitting here 16 games over 500 today, I think the Phillies are probably 4 or 5 games over 500 without Kyle Schwarber and the impact that he's brought to the offense. Is he a 10-WAR player? No, of course not. So I know it doesn't work quite that way, but I just think he's been that significant. When you consider the struggles that Harper went through at the beginning of the year, some of the lack of punch, this offense, by and large, has not been able to hit a ton of home runs, although that has changed since the All-Star break. I am aware that they lead baseball in home runs since the All-Star break, which is stunning, but a lot of that is behind Schwarber and Harper. Yeah, I mean, Dodgers could survive without Ohtani, you would think. I mean, would they be a lesser team? Sure, but the Phillies would be lost without Schwarber. It'd be night and day.
So here's a question, and I'm going to bring up a comment from one of our viewers in just a second. But I wouldn't have thought this before the All-Star break, in all honesty. I thought he had a shot at 50, but now like 50 seems to be almost a lock. He is on pace to tie Ryan Howard's franchise record of 58. Like right now, if he keeps up the pace, he's on 40 home runs in 112 games. First of all, fastest in Phillies history to 40 home runs. But if he keeps up the pace he's on, he will tie Ryan Howard at 58. If he goes a little bit faster than 58, as my guy says, if he hits 60, it would be tough to ignore.
It would be.
Right? I mean, and I think that's really got to be the question. Like, if he starts making this home run chase kind of an interesting thing down the stretch, he'll probably get the national attention that maybe most people competing against Ohtani don't get, and that could help.
Well, I think it does help that it's the Phillies. It's a high-profile team. It's a team that in this moment is in a pretty hotly contested division race against another high-profile team. So I think they're going to get a lot of looks. And yeah, if he gets to 60, that's a different story. I mean, his last 7 days, he's really turned it on. 4 home runs. Had the big RBI game last night. That's 10 RBI now in the last 7 days. He's on pace. I mean, these are his on pace numbers right now. 600 at bats, 155 hits, 25 doubles, 58 home runs, 136 runs batted in, and oh, by the way, 107 walks. I mean, these are staggering numbers. And I know that this is the conversation in the moment. It's about Schwarber and this team and this run and can they do it? And I don't want to get too far ahead of the conversation, but like the reality is that the economics of what he is about to embark upon this offseason have changed dramatically since what they would have been had we had this conversation in March about, do you bring back Kyle Schwarber? Oh, by the way, what will it take? Because if we had this conversation then, I would have said, okay, well, if he's on a 4-year, $80 million deal now, he's a little bit older. He's not really a defensive factor. Do you just simply do the same deal over again and give him, $375, $480? If you think, hey, things are escalating a little bit, $485, those aren't the numbers anymore. Unless I'm getting carried away, unless I'm a prisoner of the moment here, this thing's starting to feel like it's going to be $100 million plus when it's all said and done.
It may be 100. I think you could be looking at, is he a guy that gets 25 a year? I mean, that's possible. The only thing that I say,
if he's a 20 a year guy now, is 25 a year enough of a jump considering what this transformation is? Like,
but here's why I say that it may be. First of all, he's a designated hitter, right? And so DHs, unless your name is Ohtani, there's a limit, right, to what DHs usually make. Secondly, you have the labor war coming. And I don't think teams are going to go ridiculous with these next contracts next year. In fact, I think free agency next year is going to be one of those stalled out like winters. Like we're going to be like, oh, we're all excited for free agency, and then we don't hear anything until February. Like, I think that's what we're looking at.
Let me interject this question because it's very relative to your point, or relevant to your point. Does a player like Kyle Schwarber, like let's just say there is this uncertainty about what the next labor deal is going to look like, if they're even going to play baseball in a couple of years, are we looking at 1994 all over again? Like, okay, so the question then is this. If you are a player, do you take the certainty of a multi-year deal at perhaps a deflated price, or do you say, I'm going to go on a 1-year deal and let's just see where the dust settles thereafter, and then I'll consider a more long-term approach after there's a new labor deal?
That's a fair question, and it very well could be that. Like, and I think you might see a number of guys who are free agents this year might end up doing something like that, just to see if the dust settles. And I think that
it's also different when you're 33 years old. He's a little bit older. Does he want the certainty? Does he want?
So yeah, and so like I mean, maybe a guy like Schwarber looks at it and says, if the Phillies, for example, are willing to give me 4 or 5 years guaranteed money, I'll take that. Even though I maybe could make more, not with the uncertainty of what's going to happen in 27 and beyond with the new CBA. Like maybe it's worth that not to gamble at this point. I'm having a career year, just cash in on it now and be happy.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps. I don't know how he's going to do it. I don't know how he views it. And I think that's another wrinkle in this whole situation. I mean, it is clear as day that you're like, well, the Phillies have to pay him, right? He means too
Yeah.
much to the team from its offensive structure. He means too much to the team from the clubhouse component. And then you have a guy that, oh, by the way, if you consider yourself to be in a serious organization, he's done all the right things and he's going to pop 60 home runs and knock in 130 plus, and you're going to let the guy walk when, also take into consideration that the clock is ticking on Zach Wheeler, the clock is ticking on Bryce Harper's prime. Like, you're here now, you're at that, you've arrived. And
Yeah.
the thing that becomes interesting is, if you don't re-sign Schwarber, do you have enough A, financial flexibility, but B, creativity to build back your offense in a way that it doesn't devastate you if he walks out the door? And I'm not entirely sure that they do.
No, I'm in agreement with you. I mean, a lot will depend on what you have coming from the minor leagues, but there's nothing that's a certainty down there. There's some interesting characters, but that story is yet to be written, and so while you wait to figure out who they are and what they are, you would prefer to have the certainty of a player like Kyle Schwarber.
You would. So now, just to kind of wrap the point on the Schwarber conversation, he is gaining some momentum in terms of the betting odds. Like, Ohtani was on a different planet for 2 months, and now it's at least coming back where you can look at it and say, this isn't a joke. It's not comical. Although it's still kind of aggravating, because I think that we're having a conversation and I say, I don't think he's going to win it, but I think that it's a deserved one. I think that he's someone that warrants being in the conversation. And then you look at the odds and it's still Shohei Ohtani minus 800 right now at DraftKings. It's Pete Crow Armstrong plus 700, which I think is a joke. Like, I don't think that Schwarber and Armstrong are even, and he's had a great year and he's a promising young player and he's a lot of fun and he does a lot of good things. But maybe it's the Philly bias from me. I don't think that Schwarber and Pete Crow Armstrong belong in the same conversation. So they're both plus 700 right now. And then it's everybody else. It's Manny Machado plus 5,000, Juan Soto, which is hilarious, plus 7,500. So this really does look like a 3-man discussion right now. And in reality, I do think it's really going to be about Schwarber and Ohtani at the end.
Look what Amadeo puts up there. PCA has a lower on-base percentage than Bryson Stott.
Yeah, I'm not in the mood to fact check, but I'll take that at what it's worth, and that's crazy.
The whole betting thing with him, Bob, is because he's got the highest WAR of any offensive player in the National League.
Yeah,
and it's because he plays great defensive center field, and he's got really good numbers. Not Schwarber or Ohtani level, but he's got really good numbers. He's having a really good year. So the defense really helps him there, and that's why he's got the highest WAR of any position player. And that's why
you always say when you talk about MVP races, it's about moments. Yes, like, you need the races and you need the attention and you need the matchups, but it's about MVP moments. And I think it's still only early August. It's only August 4th when he does this, but last night felt like one of those moments where there was a certain buzz, a certain anticipation, like, can he do this? And oh, by the way, it's a nice round number and it comes with a grand slam. And it just felt like he was able to seize that first opportunity. And if you can build up those narrative driven moments that writers like yourself and myself, others, we love that stuff,
Oh, yeah.
It helps us support the case. And oh, by the way, not to give certain people too much credit, but Big Cat at Barstool, he's starting to champion Kyle Schwarber as the NL MVP. And that creates a little bit of a groundswell.
No, it certainly does. It certainly does. And yes, it's that whole, how can you not be romantic about baseball? The moment about the grand slam last night it was very akin to Bryson Stott's grand slam in the playoffs. And in this fashion, the crowd was chanting MVP, MVP as he's walking up there. And then he swings in the middle. It's like when they were singing A-OK, and then Stott swings and hits the grand slam in the playoffs against the Marlins. Schwarber does the same thing in the game last night, and the crowd goes bonkers. Like, that's pretty darn cool, right? And that's what makes it the really fun narrative, like you're talking about, for us to write about.
I want to keep things generally positive here before we get to one thing that I really want to explore with you, which is not so awesome. But let's talk a little bit about Harrison Bader. He too had a moment last night, sort of your welcome to Philadelphia moment. And the more I see from him, and I kind of went down the rabbit hole of his Instagram, like, this is like a real high energy, fun, like, he has a certain juice to him, and he's a guy that I'm curious to see what your interactions with him have been so far. I'm sure they're a little bit limited, but like there's a certain something that comes with this guy. And I've been banging this drum for months now. Like this team needs a different look. It needs an injection of life, a little bit of an alteration in terms of its personality. And he gives them that. No, by the way, he's been pretty productive too. And last night he comes up big, huge swing, breaks the game open a little bit, gives them some breathing room. They have to play this guy every day until he shows that he should not be in the lineup every day, right?
Well, it's going to happen. I don't understand this whole alternating through tomorrow, and then it's going to change come the road trip starting in Texas. I have to feel like that has something to do with Kepler going out or Crawford coming up or whatever it is. It's happening this weekend, and they're all avoiding it. No one's talking about it. I wrote a story yesterday about this because I was talking to Castellanos, and the reason I was talking to him was because Matt Gelb at The Athletic wrote a story last Friday saying that the Phillies might start considering taking some of Castellanos' playing time away. And I wanted to talk to Nick about that yesterday, and he gave me some cryptic responses, right? that he's good for. And Rob Thompson blew off the question that he was asked about the outfield, saying, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. You're 3 days away. Like, what do you mean you're not there yet? You have to know in your head. So for whatever reason, the Phillies are not telling us what they're doing with the outfield. And I got to assume Bader's going to be playing and then figure it out around him.
Do you think that starts tonight? I mean, or do we have another day of are we getting the Max Kepler swan song tonight? Like, what is this? What are we doing here? I just don't get it. The Kepler thing has become comical. It's like to the point where, I always say if everyone's on something, I have a little bit of like a contrarian thing in me where I'm like, well, wait a minute, hold your horses. Like, I would love to sit here and tell you why Max Kepler actually makes sense and how everyone's overreacting. And, you're getting swept away with this like herd mentality. Max Kepler stinks. It's time to go. Let's turn the page.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And I want to bring this up because this is kind of like
I wanted to ask you about this.
I want to kind of debunk this because a lot of people are talking about this, right? Is Crawford not up because of service time manipulation? He keeps his rookie status next season if he's called up after the 15th. The service time manipulation thing is only for the beginning of a season. Like he's nowhere close to getting enough service time to reach free agency sooner. Like it's August.
And
now,
do you
right?
really care? Like, I know August 15th, he can still be a rookie next year if you wait. Like, who cares? Like, are we trying to get Justin Crawford a rookie of the year award? Like, who cares?
Yes, like that's the thing. Like, I don't think anybody cares about that. I really don't. I don't think Justin Crawford cares about that. I don't think the Phillies care about that. If they think he's ready to play, they should call him up now, and that's all there is to it, right? I mean, I don't get the whole Max Kepler thing. And to answer a question from earlier, we scroll up. We got one from a new name here, Mursad Hurfor. Thank you for checking in. Kepler on this team in a week. I don't think so, but I didn't think he was going to be on the team this week. I didn't think he was going to be on the team.
We've been doing these shows. Yeah. I've been doing some radio hits and stuff. People keep asking. I'm like, I think he's got to be gone after the deadline, right? Like, and here he is. But the thing that makes me feel better is that none of us, even the people that are super plugged in, and you yourself are plugged in, like none of us get this. Nobody has a good explanation. Nobody says, well, you guys all overreacted. You jumped the gun. In reality, this is why he's here. Like, nobody can explain this.
No. And I hope the Phillies do explain it. Like, I hope they give us a reason for this, because if it's simply that they decided that this weekend is when Justin Crawford was coming up and don't give us a reason why, then I'm sitting there saying, well, what the hell were you doing the past 2.5 weeks? Like, why didn't this happen sooner? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
It makes absolutely no sense. All right. I do want to come back to this here now. Trea Turner.
Yeah.
It's probably time to have a conversation. We're all talking about Bryce and Stott, and, he's basically worked his way to the point where you really struggle to play him. You have to kind of just look at it and say, all right, he's a great defensive second baseman. We saw that on Sunday night. We've seen that all year. He's a good dude. I still think there's a little bit of a feel for the moment, but like that's kind of probably overblown at this point. Bryson Stott has a higher OPS than Trea Turner over each of their last 30 games. That's how bad Trea Turner has been. And he's been especially bad over his last 7 games, in which he's hitting 100. He's 3 for 30. He's walked only 1 time. He struck out 8 times. He has a 129 on base percentage and a 133 slugging percentage. And that comes out to 260. That's a 262 OPS. And this guy's hitting leadoff for you in the middle of a division race. And like, we can table the contract thing for a second and talk about the 30 million and like, just all that aside, like just the production, like, it's not good enough. You cannot have this. How much longer do you ride this out where you're like, yeah, you're going to hit leadoff for us? I know they don't really have an alternative. I know that there's no like, oh, we'll just do this instead because Stott stinks offensively. But like, come on. I mean, you can't have a guy running up there with a over his last 15 games, a 290 on base percentage. Over his last 30, a 279. We're talking about 30 games here now. This goes back before July.
Bob, it's not good, and it's kind of one thing that no one has discussed. And you and I have been talking about it for a few days, and it was something that was on my mind yesterday. I may go down there and try and write it today, and just kind of figure out what the heck's going on there. He just looks a lot like he did that right before the whole standing ovation nonsense, right? Like that's how bad he looks right now. He's swinging at everything. He's not. I know he worked a walk in one of his plate appearances last night in that 6th inning that kind of got Schwarber to the plate for the grand slam. But aside from that, he's uber aggressive, chasing pitches out of the zone. You can see there's a lot of frustration with him at every at bat. The one saving grace for him, believe it or not, has been his defense.
Yeah.
The way he's played in the field. It's been like the one thing that's kind of kept you not complaining about him, because he's actually been pretty good defensively. But if he was struggling there like he had been in the 2 previous years and hitting like this, I think that people would be calling for him to be benched at this point. That's the only thing that's kept him. You're right. I don't know how you can keep that guy leading off, but do you really have a better option other than
really
Schwarber and Turner, or Schwarber and Harper 1-2?
No, and look, I think you leave him there, but it's like, how do you leave him there? How do you continue to do this? And just to kind of give it some further context, like we talk about 23 being a disaster, right? Like that was not the Trea Turner that you thought you were going to get. And I know a month ago we're sitting here saying, a guy probably should have been an all-star, and maybe at the time of the vote and the time of the selections, he should have been, leading the National League in hits for a large amount of the season and has improved defensively. And I applaud that he's changed his approach from an offensive standpoint and gave them more consistent and competitive at bats. Like the Phillies wanted him to do that, and he did it for an amount of time. But we're getting to the point now where, like, okay, if in 2023 he was considered an offensive disaster, he finished with a 779 OPS. He's at 752 right now. And also, at one point I kind of shrugged my shoulders because, well, he's still got 11 home runs this year, so I don't want to make something out of nothing or overreact to like a small sample set. But he's had 222 at bats now at home this season, and he hasn't homered. And like, it is weird. Like,
yeah,
I shrugged that off in like May, early June. I said, oh, that's baseball. How do you make 222 at bats at home and not homer? Like, is there something upstairs here that's like a little bit off with him, like in terms of his confidence, in terms of how he, like, it's weird. This whole Trea Turner thing, we're 3 years into it now, and it hasn't been a disaster, but it hasn't been good.
No, you're right. That's exactly the best way to describe it. It's been aggravating, I think, if you're a fan, right? Like, because your expectation was an MVP caliber type shortstop,
a difference maker, a guy that you feel like you put into your lineup and he makes you more potent, he makes you more lethal, he scares the opposition. Is anybody scared by Trea Turner?
No, that's the thing. Like right now, no. And so I'm going to ask you this because Amy mentions that the announcers on ESPN were talking about it. Obviously, I don't hear that. I'm at the ballpark. You're watching it on your phone. I don't know if you were watching with the sound off because the kids
I've gotten a lot of audio these last couple of days.
So, but yeah, I mean, that's. I don't. He is a very perplexing character in this story for the Phillies, And there are times when you watch Trea Turner and you go, "Oh yeah, that guy's legit. That's a really top end player." And then there are times you watch Trea Turner and like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah.
And I've never seen a guy fluctuate between extremes as much as he does, and he's really done that this year.
Well, look, one thing I will say, and we talked about it at the top, if you're just joining us, I'm up here in a hotel room in Maine. And one thing I've learned this week is that, and I don't know, I know you're headed for a vacation yourself.
We're going to be on opposite ends of the coast.
Yeah.
There.
Key West is awesome. Also,
yeah.
Big Key West guy, as someone that enjoys a beverage or 10.
Yeah.
The wife not thrilled about taking 30 to 40 minutes of a vacation so that we can talk about the Phillies.
You think I wonder if my wife will be okay with that when we do it on Friday.
I'll be ready to go Friday. I'll be back in South Jersey on Friday. So get you at the beach or what is it? The world's smallest bar or whatever it is. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. I actually did want to get to one thing you just briefly alluded to, and then I sort of took us past it. But you talked to Nick Castellanos, and there, as you had noted, Gelb had floated out this idea that perhaps they cut into his playing time. What was that conversation like? What was your read from Nick, and how's he feeling these days?
He just kind of turned it into the media write their opinion, and I'd much rather focus on the opinion of people who have done this before. So, I mean, I don't know if that was meant as a shot at Gelb or a shot at all of us together. So I try to play it off, and I laughed at his response, and I said, "Well, Nick," I said, "sometimes we write good things, sometimes we write positive things, sometimes the stories we write are well researched." And I said to him, I said, "What do you think of that?" Thank you, Alexa. Somebody's at the front door, but Maria will get it. But I said, what about those kinds of stories? And he said, "I can't even focus on the positive stories because," he says, "when you get caught up in the positive, you can't help but also get caught up in the negative. So it's better to ignore the cheers. So it's easier to ignore the boos." So
I think that's fair. You get people like me coming on and saying, "This guy's great right now. He's the best. He's the man." And then, a month from now, I'm going to be ripping you apart. So you can't get all caught up in that.
Yeah. So that was basically, so he kind of just talked around it. He didn't want to discuss it. Rob Thompson doesn't want to discuss it, which bothers me a little bit more because he's the one who put it out there. Yeah. Like no one would have known that this was, we're going to do 6 games and then we're going to reconvene on this conversation. And it was like, well, what's that all about? Like if you just would have let it go and not said anything, no one would be digging into this, and so I just wish that we would get a better understanding of it. And I'm sure we will by Friday. We'll have an answer, but it's infuriating.
For what it's worth. I mean, there have been so many at-bats where it's non-competitive. He gets himself out. I just don't see, I think he's done enough. Like for where they're at offensively, I think he's done enough that you're not going to cut into his at-bats. Maybe you go back to replacing him late in games. I mean, the defense is comically bad. I know that a lot of people in this town really get excited that he catches the ball when it's hit to him, but like, let's be real. Like there are limitations in his game defensively. I don't think it would be outrageous to consider situational defensive replacements with him, but I just don't think you're going to sub him out offensively for where they're at right now.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I don't think you can. I mean, he's still the most productive overall guy. I mean, I guess if you count Bader's numbers from the Twins, maybe Bader passes him, but we haven't seen it yet here in Philadelphia. It's hard to just say, just take that guy out of the lineup. I agree with the whole defensive replacement thing. I did want to point out something about that. We were talking about Turner earlier, and if you recall last year, the Phillies kind of poo-pooed questions about defensive analytics that are publicly available for players when people were asking about Trea Turner at shortstop. And then Rob Thompson uses outs above average to talk about Trea Turner at shortstop. And in fairness, he's plus 12. He's like, 4th best shortstop in baseball, or 3rd best shortstop in baseball at that. It's really good. Well, if you go by outs above average, which apparently is a good enough stat for the Phillies for Trea Turner, Nick Castellanos at minus 10 is the worst outfielder in Major League Baseball with outs above average. So yes, you do need to kind of go I think sit there and say, okay, maybe we pull him in the 7th inning with a
Yeah.
lead. Okay, fine. I'm okay with that. I don't think you can say he's a platoon player now all of a sudden, because that I don't think will fly, not only for the team's production, but I think that would send a real ripple through that clubhouse that you don't want to create.
I agree with that. I agree with absolutely everything you just said. One other thing I wanted to touch on before we get to one last thing, and then I have to bolt out of here.
Yeah.
The Mets. The Mets are now a game and a half back in the division, and they heated up for a little bit. I think that they have a chance. Like, I don't think that this division is over by any means, and especially just because right now it's tilting in the Phillies' favor over the last couple of days. But is it weird that they have kind of come into the stretch here where they've had the Giants, who are, kind of have been horrible. And then they have the Guardians who basically punted on their season. And they're all of a sudden sputtering. Like, they're playing really bad baseball against some pretty middling opponents. Are you ready to give the Phillies a division here on August 5th?
Oh, you know how I feel about the Mets. I've been telling you all along that I just don't like. I believe in players' baseball cards. Like, I look at what their numbers are, and I see over a track record. And yes, guys can have that career year or have a bounce back season or whatever. Those things do happen. But the Mets are full of those guys. And like, I sit there and say, you can't get lucky enough to have them all be good at once. And even if it's for a stretch like they've had this year, I'm not sitting here telling you the Mets are a bad team. They're not. They're going to be a playoff team, but they're not as good as the Phillies. And the Phillies should be further ahead than a game and a half than the Mets. It's more an indictment.
It really is. It still feels like a missed opportunity. We talked about that, and I had actually noted, hey, even when they had beat the Yankees 2 out of 3 and they lost ground because the Mets had, I believe that weekend had swept the Angels, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
They beat the Reds in the finale of a 3-game set to salvage a series. Then they swept the Angels. They swept San Francisco in San Francisco, which was brutal for the Giants, and I think dictated a lot of their inactivity at the deadline or even the selling that they did. Then they go out to San Diego, though, get swept, lose 2 out of 3 to San Francisco, lose last night in the opener. That's 6 out of 7 they've lost now. And again, the Phillies should be distancing themselves. They should be 3.5, 4.5 games up right now in this division. Hopefully it doesn't come back and bite them in the ass. And as we talk here, I see that Jose Alvarado will be made available this afternoon at 3 p.m. I cannot wait for that.
Yeah. Well, that was the one thing he put. I don't know if you saw, Bob. He put an apology out on Instagram to the city, to his teammates, to the fans, and promised to work hard and be at his best the rest of the regular season. Look, the bullpen could use the help down the stretch. That's fine. But what do you make of that? Do you think he gets a warm welcome back? Do you think the fans give him a pass here for this, or do they hold it against him?
I'll go somewhere in the middle. I think that they will let him know about it because I think his absence has crushed this team. We talk about not having that 4.5 game lead. I'd like to think that if he were part of this team over the last 2 months plus, that might be a little bit of a different situation than what we're dealing with right now. It's cost them. It has hurt them. Now, not that they've blown a lot of games with 9th inning leads. We didn't even talk about this. We didn't even talk about the closer on this show.
Well, I was going to just bring it up real quick. Go ahead. Yeah.
But obviously it has left them very vulnerable in the 6th and 7th innings of games where they probably could have used that arm, I don't think it's going to be like all hugs and all is forgotten, but I think it'll turn. If he comes back and pitches well for them, I think everybody's able to move on and turn the page. I know a lot of people said, well, the Phillies certainly can't employ him beyond this year. He's done too much damage to the relationship. I don't think that's true, but I also don't think it's just going to be a standing O and, hey, welcome back, no hard feelings.
In 1 minute, your first impressions of Jhoan Duran.
He's awesome, as advertised. Phillies have done a great job with the in-stadium experience stuff. This team needs some life, needs a jolt of energy, needs something new, something to talk about, from the fan base perspective. And he's delivered and checked all of those boxes. Seeing a guy coming out and throwing 102 and 103 on Sunday Night Baseball, it's just different. You don't have to hold your breath every time the guy comes out of the bullpen doors. It's awesome. That being said, I do think it's hilarious that all of a sudden the city is swept up by this guy. And I would imagine 75% of fans had no idea who the hell he was 3 weeks ago.
That's correct. That is correct. And I will
Who?
tell you this.
How you say his name?
The thing that impresses me the most about him, and I'm 103 is great. It's the fastest pitch ever thrown by a Philly, fastest in Citizens Bank Park history, whatever. That doesn't impress me as much as throwing a splitter at 99.7.
Yeah, it's wild. It's been awesome.
that just, and his curveball is like 89, which is crazy too.
And
right?
I do appreciate the fact that they went to him in the ninth inning. They're like, we got this shiny new object, shiny new toy. We're putting him on national TV. We're winning 2 out of 3 against the Tigers team that many consider to be the best team in the AL for much of this season. It was like a statement thing, and I have no problem with that. And if it were Ryan Kerkering or Jordan Romano or Matt Strahm, and Chris Sanchez was bumped at 84 pitches after the way he threw the ball the other night, I would have been out of my mind. But for this guy, go ahead, have at it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, here's one last thing, Bob, and I think I want to call foul on this. I want to throw the flag on this. Did you see the Portland Pickles? Did you see what happened with the Portland Pickles?
Picking the fan out of the stands and he hits the home run.
Took a fan out of the stands, and now it's actually not just the home run. So his first at bat, works a walk, steals a bag, scores a run. They put him in left field, catches a fly ball, and then comes up and hits a home run. All right. Turns out, and the LA Times did a little investigation. Turns out that this guy did play D3 college baseball. And this is, look, this wood bat league, this is out in west part of the United States. This is akin to like the Cape League. Like there's major league players that have come out of this league. And like Kyle Manzardo from the Cleveland Guardians played for the Portland Pickles. So this is like a legit operation. This isn't some ho-hum thing. Do you believe that they didn't know anything about this? Some random fan, or is this like, this is a super plant, guys, and they're just trying to get something to go viral, and they're Savannah Bananaing it?
I think it's a super plant, and I think it's brilliant. And it's fun. And most people are only going to look at it on the surface and say, what a cool story. And they won't follow the LA Times investigation or any other tweet that comes out henceforth. So
yeah,
good for them.
Exactly. I call Fugazi on. I call Fugazi on it. The fact that he's in the crowd wearing a team uniform.
Yeah, shows you how little I know, because I'm up here in Maine and I'm thinking, oh, like, is that the East Coast Portland? Or are we going to be able to go see a little drive by see a Pickles game this week?
Portland, Oregon.
Hey, wife and kids, we're going to go see the Portland Pickles. Probably wouldn't have gone too well. So
yeah, probably would. They probably gone over even less than you doing this show here.
Yeah, I believe I see them coming from a distance through the door window. So you got to get me out of here. In fact, I'm out of here. You send everybody home. I'll talk to you soon.
I will close it out. I'll talk to you soon. Yep. Don't forget, folks. Thanks for tuning in to Phightin Words. You can always find Phightin Words. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, wherever you get your podcasts. But the best thing to do is always to subscribe to it right here on YouTube. Click the thumbs up, ring the bell. Make sure you never miss a show. That way, every time Bob and I go live, and you never know when we're going to go live. Sometimes it's first thing in the morning. Sometimes it's here at lunchtime. It's all over the place, different days. Us two getting our schedules together is never an easy thing. But we've promised to try and do 2 a week. But you'll never miss a show right here on YouTube. And if you're listening in the podcast feed and you want to find us on YouTube, youtube.com/@PhightinWords. So for Bob Wankel, who has now bailed so his wife doesn't murder him up in Kennebunkport, Maine, I'm Anthony Sanfilippo saying thanks for tuning in, and we will see you on Friday.